The seat taken.
Nobody's in the seat, then I ain't taking, son.
So this is, Sabacc?
Sabacc.
Yo, what is up? Welcome back to Sabacc the Block, the first cut official Star Wars show. We are back doing it again because we got an official Star Wars show back on Disney Plus. We're excited to talk about it. I'm here with a very special guest to break it all down. We have the host of Scum and Villainy podcast, Garrett McDowell, is in the house. What is up, man?
What's up, man? Happy to be here. Thanks for having me on. I'm excited to be talking about the show. You and I were chatting off air, peek behind the curtain. I haven't even recorded our podcast episode of this, so this is like the rawest of the raw thoughts that I can offer, but I'm pumped to be here.
Yeah, and I'm excited to break it all down with you, obviously, man. We're going to do a non-spoiler quick discussion, and then we'll get to the spoiler discussion. But before we do that, Garrett, every time we have a new guest on the show, we ask them about their Star Wars story. So, Garrett, what is your Star Wars story?
Yeah, it's one of those funny things of everybody has that, like, you know, landmark. Oh, my uncle showed me Star Wars, or I saw it on TV or whatever. I'm just kind of that generation where Star Wars has just always been there. I've never had a time in my life to where I didn't know Star Wars. I think the earliest memories that I do have were just seeing like the spines in the cover art of like the VHS tapes, like in my, you know, family's living room, and just kind of scanning those and being equally mystified and intrigued, and also kind of scared with, you know, people like Emperor Palpatine or Darth Maul, and, you know, diving into me being a prequel kid into the prequel era Star Wars. The Phantom Menace was such a big entry point for me, but unfortunately I don't have that like memory of sitting down for the very first time and watching these movies. But it is also kind of nice that like my love of movies and my love of, you know, entertainment and all of that great stuff is so synonymous with my love of Star Wars, because there's never been a time in my life where I've not had Star Wars.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it's very interesting to hear different people's perspective. I know, shout out to TV rights, because a lot of people have seen them on TV. Right?
Oh yeah,
you know, like the
TNT. Exactly.
Back in my day, it was Spike TV.
Yeah, Spike TV.
They had
Spike TV was me.
Yeah,
that's what they played Star Wars like on loop, just like TNT does now. But it was Spike TV for me growing up. When it comes to watching the films in theaters, was that the sequels for you?
Yeah, so the very first Star Wars movie that I saw in theaters was Revenge of the Sith. Remember seeing that with my family. I remember distinctly my sister being absolutely horrified at what she saw, because she was a big like Anakin Hayden Christensen fan. But I don't have super clear memories of the entire experience, more just kind of, you know, the merchandise, obviously my aforementioned sister. But I have very vivid memories of seeing Force Awakens in the theaters for the first time. Saw it on my 16th birthday at 2 a.m. with my mom in IMAX. We drove like an hour to see it in IMAX, and I just remember being totally blown away. But now, since, you know, moving here to Los Angeles, I've had the opportunity to see all Star Wars films released, you know, theatrically on the big screen, which has been really great. And it's kind of funny when you get to see movies like, you know, Phantom Menace, which just re-released. People like me, that released in 99. Even if I was, you know, of the age to go see it, I certainly wouldn't have remembered it. But it's funny to see movies like that you've seen a million times, and, you know, every line and every beat. When you see it on the big screen, you're kind of seeing it for the first time. And that's been great to see, as, you know, Jedi was re-released and all of this stuff. And so, yeah, I'm hoping that they continue to do that, because it really is a transformative experience being able to see those on the big screen.
Yeah, there's nothing quite like watching movies in theaters on the big screen, like you said. All right, what everyone wants to get to, let's get to the green Psylop for this episode.
If you'd only had this little green Psylop.
And our green silo for today is all about the Acolyte episodes 1 and 2 premiered last night. We're here to break it down. First things first for the green silo, what I wanted to do, just in case there's anyone watching that didn't want to get spoiled, I want to do a quick thoughts, non-spoiler. What did you think, Garrett, of the first 2 episodes of the Acolyte?
You know, it was my most anticipated Star Wars project when it was announced. Out of all of the shows that had come out of, I think that was Celebration, a couple celebrations ago, this was the one that I was kind of most intrigued by. And I think it was because it seemed so different. Like, not only was it set hundreds of years earlier in the timeline, but all of the characters would be new. The tone of this murder mystery would be new, and getting into the Sith of it all seemed really intriguing as well. And I've got to say, I'm not necessarily completely floored or blown away, but I am very intrigued. I think that these 2 episodes really do deliver a satisfying introduction to this series, but not necessarily one that I am like, oh my God, stop the presses. I do really like these 2 episodes. I'm very intrigued by the characters. I'm very intrigued by this era as well as the mystery. I think the hang up that I have with this, as well as just some hang ups that I've been having with a lot of kind of modern filmmaking, is the filmmaking. I think, unfortunately, the show does kind of look like a Disney Plus original, but I'm trying to kind of push all of that stuff aside because as I'm sure you can relate, being a prequel kid, I'm no stranger to going, yeah, you know what, doesn't look the best, but here's all of this other stuff that is really, really cool. And everywhere you look in this show, every corner that you look, there's a weirdo alien or some crazy thing happening. So I'm trying to push away the cynical side of my brain and going, yeah, I wish it was kind of a little, looked a little better or looked a little bit more cinematic or whatever. But I do think what this needed to do with this pilot, with introducing this characters, introducing this ensemble cast, as well as this era, I think it's a very strong start.
Yeah, everything you said is very important, right? Because I feel like that's part of enjoying a Star Wars show is the sets, is the world building, is the direction behind the episodes. I don't know, man. Maybe it's just because I'm still jaded by like Netflix live action shows that just look 10 times worse than this. Sure. Yeah. I was impressed by how it looked. What did you think of the 2 things that I think is really important? Tone and direction.
Yeah, I thought tone was nailed it. Like, I think that this tone of this series is kind of this perfect blend of what I think a lot of people, even folks who did really like Andor, where maybe you felt that was kind of missing from that show, which is this sort of pulpy, overtly sci-fi, in other words, kind of goofy tone. That is Star Wars. It's I don't say goofy in a derogatory way. I say goofy in Star Wars is goofy, and Star Wars has a lot of silly elements to it. But when you have a show that is dealing with the seriousness of the topics that something like Andor deals with, I think that there is kind of this itching of like, yeah, all of the prison stuff is great, but could we have a couple more aliens in there? Could we have a couple more weirdos in there? And I think that this show is like a perfect blend of what I think a lot of Star Wars fans, including myself, are kind of hungry for, which is, let's set up this darker tone, this contemplative story with very rich and emotionally layered characters, as well as, hey, that guy's head turned into a giant tongue, and those seats are actually robots. Just like a bunch of weird little details. I love that this show has so early on been able to establish that we're going to get dark, we're going to get serious, but also it's Star Wars. We're here to have some fun. I think as far as the direction goes, I was very impressed with a lot of the performances, and obviously a big part of that is the direction and working with the actors, and I think that that was very well done. I loved the emphasis on this feeling kind of reminiscent of the prequel era of Star Wars. That to me, this felt like I was seeing someone who loved The Phantom Menace. And I'm not just saying that because Leslie Headland mentioned it in like every interview that they did for the show, but you can see it on screen. You can see that somebody is a true blue Star Wars fan. I think for myself, again, kind of going back to some of the more filmmaking side of things, I just think that in the modern day and age of streaming, so many shows just kind of have this look. It's a little difficult difficult to kind of pinpoint. I just felt like the filmmaking that I was seeing on display here in regards to like where the camera was moving within the space, the composition of certain shots, as well as some lighting here and there. I thought it was fine. It was serviceable, but I'm struggling to really recollect a lot of scenes where I was like, wow, that's a great shot, or like, that's a really cool shot. Great choreography, of course, and great sets and locations. That's something I've also been really hungry for in this kind of, volume era of Star Wars that we're in. But for me, it was mostly, when I talk about the direction, some of the qualms that I had, it was where kind of the camera was located. I kind of was hoping for a little bit more style in that regard, because I felt like everything it was capturing was very stylized, but just the way that it captured it, I kind of wanted a little bit more Leslie behind it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure. And I hope we do get a little bit more of that later on. Obviously, these are just the first 2 episodes, because we still have that opportunity to further dive deeper into that. All right. I don't want to beat around the bush anymore. Let's go to Full Sabacc.
Full Sabacc.
Our Full Sabacc is all about our spoiler thoughts on the Acolyte episodes 1 and 2. And I want to get right to you, Garrett. Go ahead, RB3.
Let me just say this real quick. I did not watch the episode, so this is where the part where I will be departing. But to the 10 people that we have in chat, which is the most since we brought Sabacc back undressed, to all 10 people watching, like, comment, subscribe, get y'all comments in. Let us know what y'all think of the Acolyte spoilers. I won't be reading them, but somebody will. So get the chat going. Let's get the chat on fire. I'm out.
Garrett, what did you think of the Acolyte? Give me your spoiler thoughts. What's the first thing you want to get to?
I think the first thing that really intrigued me about this show was the idea of it being a whodunit. And I love that so early on, the show is like, forget all of that. The show isn't a whodunit, it's a why done it. Like the perpetrator, the killer, is revealed to the audience very early on. That was something that I was hoping for, that they wouldn't be teasing this thing that fans had been speculating for months now, which is that May is in fact a twin. That was something that I was hoping that it wouldn't be like, 5 episodes in, that's the reveal. And we're like, we knew, but I'm glad that in the very first episode, they kind of got that out of the way and are now more interested into really diving into who are these characters? What are these characters' pasts? What are the sins that they have made and the sins they're trying to cover up, as well as who have they harmed and what is their goal? Is it justice? Is it retribution? And how much does the point of view of how this story is told kind of manipulate the audience's perception of these characters, because a lot of information is being held from the audience. And I think that that's really crucial in a mystery, is that as we continue to dive into the story, it kind of continues to unfurl itself. Leslie Headland described the show as kind of being like an onion. And I think that that's a really perfect way to describe that is that within every episode, we're peeling back the layers and getting to know these characters more and what their true motivations are.
Yeah, I feel like the premise is really what captures you, right? The idea of twins on opposite sides of the Force, seemingly on opposite sides of the Force, who have this connection but are separated and are choosing 2 different paths. And then obviously the whole kill these Jedi because they've wronged me in some way. We don't know how, and we want to know how because we want to know what did they do to deserve being killed, right?
Yeah.
And then the idea of her master choosing this path for her and then doing the whole no weapon thing, obviously, is another interesting aspect. We've seen this before when it comes to Knights of the Old Republic, the Fallen Empire, I believe it's called. And I feel like people are familiar with that, even if you haven't played the game. The idea of twins being on opposite sides of the Force. I can't lie, Garrett. I completely forgot about the twins theory. So the first time I saw Osha and she was on the ship and she's like, what happened? I didn't do anything. I was like, why are you playing? Yeah. We saw you. And then immediately it clicked on me after like another minute. And I was like, this is definitely twins.
Well, I love how the show was also kind of like, this person can't be evil. Look how cute their droid is,
Exactly. Yeah. And just completely different personality, right? And I just thought she was switching it up. She was just, playing a part. But that premise, as far as what did the Jedi do to deserve this? What did the Jedi do to May? what is going to be this back and forth between light side twin, dark side twin kind of aspect is really, really interesting inside the show. So I think that's a really cool premise. I want to get to that Force vision because I do feel like that's probably the highlight of the first episode. I think it was the first episode. What did you think of the reveal as far as like she sees her sister as a little girl, then she turns into a little girl, that whole Force aspect of it?
You know, I think it is a little innocuous the first time you see it because it is a pretty standard Force vision. And you're like, all right, her sister's reaching out to her. But then the revelation that even her sister, May, doesn't know that she's alive either. Then on a rewatch kind of makes you go, oh, who is bridging this gap between these two people? Is it this mysterious dark side Sith user, as we've been calling him on our show, like Darth Teeth, you know, like he's got this row of teeth, looks like a Slipknot, like rejected band member or something like that? Is he kind of pulling a Snoke and is bridging the mind between these two people, sort of, you know, like the dyad that we saw between Kylo and between Rey? Is it that sort of situation, or are they a dyad in the Force? You know, Leslie is a pretty diehard Star Wars fan. I wouldn't be surprised if that's something that she wanted to incorporate in this as well. And so, yeah, I think it is something that I'm hoping this entire show makes a habit of, which is the first time you watch it, there's a certain meaning. The second time you watch it, there's a completely different meaning. Again, as we are revealed these characters' intentions and their maybe more objective or, subjective POV, as we hear in Star Wars all the time, you know, from a certain point of view. And let's see those points of view. And as we continue to do so, how do these prior episodes and these prior events, you know, how does our engagement with those events begin to change?
Yeah, for sure. And obviously that's part of the show, is developing this mystery, like you said, of the why and what's going on with these four Jedi as far as what happened on her home world. Obviously, there's a lot of assumptions that could come into your head. You can assume a lot of things as far as what happened, but I would prefer to wait to see, because I feel like we won't have to wait too long to get answers to certain questions. And maybe not every question, but at least certain questions, I feel like there will be answers. Go ahead. Yeah.
Well, I was just going to say that I think that it's interesting that even if we are revealed this truth of, you know, like we've seen in The Last Jedi, it's like this version of the story that this character tells is their version of the story. It's their point of view. So even if we see May's point of view and sees the sins that the Jedi, in her eyes have done, that's going to be different than Master Soul's point of view. You know, maybe it is this completely, you know, Rashomon kind of story structure here, to where in that film, the Kurosawa film, for those of you who aren't familiar, we get told the same story, but from three different points of view. And the story is a lot about power and people having points of view who also hold positions of power, and how do they manipulate the truth in a self-aggrandizing kind of way. And I think with what we've already seen in these few episodes, Leslie is quite eager to not necessarily critique the Jedi in like they're actually the bad guys, because I don't think that that's what the show is trying to do. I think it's trying to paint the Jedi as capable of making mistakes, you know, not necessarily human, but for a lack of better words, human, that they are not infallible, that the Jedi and the fall of the Jedi that we see in the prequel era, you know, how do we get there? And I think that whatever happened on this planet could be the Jedi kind of fucked up and they're trying to cover their tracks, or they're trying to, you know, make this situation that could have made them look really bad, make them look a little less bad. And so I don't think it's going to be quite as black and white of, well, actually the Jedi are the bad guys and, you know, the Sith user is the good guy. I don't think that this show is going to quite communicate that. I think it's going to be murky, a little gray, if you will.
Yeah. Not a gray Jedi, but gray.
No, get that out of here. Get that out of here. Morally gray.
All right, I just got to get to it. I'll put it in my notes, Garrett, just so you know. When I sent you these notes, I had completely different notes. When I said spoiler, I put all the spoilers in there. And then I realized that I saw the episode a little early, so I might be spoiling it for you guys. But on my second note, I just have Indara, Master Indara. I'm so mad.
See,
I'm so mad. I'm so mad.
Yeah.
Y'all, Star Wars did me dirty. They promised me Trinity as a Jedi. They told me Carrie-Anne Moss. They put her on freaking TNT. They put her on ESPN. Good Morning America. She was popping up everywhere. I was like, we finally, like, my Matrix loving heart is getting a little delicious plate served to me with my Star Wars loving heart, and it's coming together in the perfect
snatched
unison.
away.
And it's snatched away in the first scene of the show.
They Drew Barrymore'd her in the opening of Scream, to where like, oh, I can't wait to see super famous, well-known, oh God, they're dead. Such a horrible death.
Broke my heart, but what are your thoughts on Master Indara, but the fight, Master Indara, and her death?
I love that this was the intro of the series. I think that not only does it really establish stakes, but it establishes this era and it establishes characters. Like, it's such a perfect introduction into this world and where these Jedi are at, like in the galaxy. This isn't prequel times. This isn't Clone Wars time, to where all the Jedi are kind of cooped up in the Jedi Temple on Coruscant, so isolated from the rest of the galaxy. She's like kicking it in the bar with a bunch of other patrons. Like, it seems like that she has friends, and if you've read the High Republic books that you would know that at this time the Jedi are posted in various different kind of outposts throughout the galaxy, sort of as, like, I guess the proto sheriffs of the town, getting to know the people of the galaxy rather than, again, just being sort of insular on Coruscant. And I love that we are first introduced to this weirdo cantina bar noodle shop, whatever's going on here, to where there's tons of aliens. It's a practical set. Beyond that, the fight is cool as hell. Again, if you are casting Carrie-Anne Moss in Star Wars, Trinity herself, you got to deliver really cool action. And I'm sure any listeners will correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm not a big wrestling guy, but I do know a couple of things. I know that it is common in wrestling. The phrase is to put someone up, I believe is how it goes. Put someone over. There you go. Where you introduce a new character, a new person, and the way that you kind of establish them as a threat is to hurt, or in this case, kill someone that the audience kind of has this understanding of being formidable. And I love that Carrie-Anne Moss was cast as that formidable character, because we are associating her with Trinity, one of the biggest badass in the history of pop culture. And for her to be killed, I think it establishes May as not just really capable, but also quite bloodthirsty, that she's willing to target a civilian, target the compassion of the Jedi as a weakness to kill them. So yeah, I thought this intro was great, even though we've seen so much of it in the trailers and the marketing. I feel like I had almost seen this entire scene play out, especially if you saw the sneak preview at the Phantom Menace screening. But even still, in context of the rest of the episode, I thought it was a really great start.
Yeah, I obviously agree with what you're saying, but it still hurts, and it still makes me
absolutely
salty.
Yeah, it doesn't make it better. No, it's still. I was like, I knew it's coming. I know it's coming. She's gonna die, but oh god, you hate to see it happen.
And also, man was getting cooked. Can we agree on that? Like,
yeah.
Indara didn't break a sweat. Like, nah. I think she might have been like the most formidable Jedi during this time period.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously a little bit we saw of Master Soul shows that he's also very formidable, but I feel like there was something about Indara that I was just like, no one can beat her, and then she gets beat with that knife fake out throw. I really like that. That's one scene where I reacted to out loud, where I got to give you props for that, because I mean, it's a dirty move, but it's a move that's going to get you the W. When she did that fake out throw where she throws a knife at the patron, she stops it, gets her attention, throws the other one. Super cool way to meet your end, to be honest. I thought it was a really, really interesting way to do it. The second thing I got to say about May's really cool already to me because of the knife throwing. To me, that's
not only that, but like retrieving the knives, using the force. I was like, oof, she's got style too.
Called him back. Like, I was like, this is me right here. I would write something like this, because I personally have always loved like knife throwing. There's something about knife throwing, and I know it's very little in cinema, but the little that we do get, or we have gotten, it's like one of my favorite like quirks or like weaponry because I think it's so just bizarre and out there, and you have to be so precise. It's not quite bow and arrow where you can have that distance. And you have to be so much more precise with your throws. So I think it's really cool to do that with the Force user where she can call him back. So I thought it was a really cool fight, and I really enjoyed it. Obviously, R.I.P. Indara. Hopefully we get more of her later on, because I'm going to be a little bit sad if we don't, because I really do feel like this was a opportunity to have such an amazing actress in this show. So
yeah, I think we're definitely going to be spending some more quality time with them. I can really expect to see some flashbacks of, you know, exactly what happened on May and Osha's home planet, what exactly happened with this fire. The fire happened. Is it Indira's fault? Is it Soul's fault? Or is it this kind of lost in translation thing? So I do expect to spend some time with a younger Indira. So yeah, don't worry, Carrie and Moss, I guarantee they'll be back.
Well, speaking of Indira or Indara,
Indira, yeah,
Indara, I'd probably go Indara. Her freaking Padawan, bro. This is like, she can't catch a break. Now this other guy, I already forgot his name. Master Tridon.
Oh, yeah.
Episode 2.
I've got him. Yeah, the dude, the balding guy, the floating, I think it's like, Triton or something like that. Torben. I got it. Torben. Yeah. The receding hairline, meditating Jedi that we get.
Yeah, it's a really fascinating way to do this. Obviously, we meet the character of Chimera, I believe is his name. Played by
Manny Jacinto. Yeah.
Yeah. And he the way he talks about the casualness in the way he talks about killing these Jedi with May, it makes it an interesting dynamic as far as seeing like just how much May has dedicated herself to this, and just how like normal this is to her, where she's just like talking to this guy who supplies stuff to her, and she's just like, I'm trying to kill this dude, you know, you mind helping me out? Like, it feels so chill. It feels like she's just accomplishing something so simple, and yet it's a complex idea of trying to kill these Jedi, and a complex mission, and a difficult mission, obviously. What did you think of that whole episode 2 arc of her killing, I already forgot his name again, Torben?
Yeah, I thought what we are revealed about May, and kind of you were talking about like her connection to this creed, as it were, because we went in her scene with Chimera in that kind of poison shop that they're held up in. He is kind of like preaching at her, emphasis at her, the Sith code, and she kind of is like, yeah, dude, I know the drill. Like, it is kind of like you were saying, it's almost this sort of cliche platitude for her, which also makes me wonder about how vested she is in all of this, because as we see, she doesn't kill that bar patron. It seems that there is even this early on kind of saving the cat kind of moment of, she's got some sort of code. There is some sort of heart or nobility in there. And I think that will definitely come from this twisted sense of justice/revenge, which almost is like the title of episode 2. I think that the titles of these episodes are really this big neon flashing light of kind of the big themes and the big ideas that we're having here, is that from her point of view, she probably sees it as justice, but from Soul's point of view, sees it as revenge. I thought that the sequence was great. I'm loving that this show is not spending too much time trying to convince the audience, or wasting time trying to cause this conflict between May and the other Jedi of like, oh, you were alone with the body, you killed them. You know, I'm glad that we're kind of, you know, that even Yord steps in and is like, oh no, it wasn't her, that we were able to kind of fast forward that, and again really focus on this kind of tenuous trusting between these two groups. But I really like Yord stepping in and kind of being this goody two shoes, you know, Boy Scout. I think that Yord is a very fascinating character. But I think the thing that most intrigued me here is this Torben guy, who has been apparently silent after taking this vow for 10 years. And then the mere thought of having to admit what he did, he's like, I'm done. I'm killing myself. Like, I thought that was so fascinating. He takes this sincere vow, but this accountability that he would have to take is not worth his life, which is also making me wonder about, the culpability of the Jedi. I wasn't super impressed with some of the makeup in that scene. I thought Torben, I know he's been through it and it's been 10 years, but that wig that he had on looked brutal. I was not just in regards to like filmmaking kind of stuff. I was like, oh, we couldn't have maybe casted somebody who, I don't know, had a similar haircut, or put a wig on him when he's younger. I don't know, or maybe just have him be an alien. But he did look a little silly to me. But I thought that scene of her trying to stab him with kind of that literal force field around him, that was really, really cool. So wig gripes aside, I really liked the sequence.
Still better than Princess Yue, man. That's all I gotta say. Still better than Princess Yue. Nothing's gonna beat that. That's like an all-timer. That's like top 2, 3. But yeah, I really did feel like part of me felt like the brutality of it. I know maybe that's not a takeaway that a lot of people would have, but to me, it felt very much like the way Khmer was like, hey, everyone has a weakness. All you got to do is talk a little bit and just give him what he wants, give him a little bit of absolution, make him feel bad, I guess, is kind of what he was getting at. And he'll just kill himself. And I was like, this is dark.
Yeah, super dark, yeah.
And the way it's so casual as far as, her just coming up to him, saying a few words, and that's enough for him to be like, all right, cool, I'm going to drink this. Which is, again, very dark, but also it makes you wonder and question just how bad or just what happened. It must have been pretty severe if this guy is willing to do it, like you said, so quickly. And also the idea of entrapping yourself in the Force in a meditative state for 10 years is also very interesting to me. I was thinking about that earlier today because I guess you could assume he gets his nourishment from the Force as well, where if he's just staying in that state, that's how he's able to nourish himself.
He takes like a lunch break. He's like, oh, all right,
like no one's here. He looks around.
Yeah, all right, it's safe to. He's like, on my back.
But I feel like that's a very interesting concept, I guess is what I'm saying, where he stays in that state. But I thought it was cool. I want to get to the cast. Who is your standout so far, and what do you think of kind of each main crew member?
I think it's, as far as the standout of these 2 episodes, it would definitely be between Amandla Stenberg as well as Lee Jung-jae. I think Amandla has a really tough job with this series already of playing these 2 different characters who have very different relationships with the Jedi, relationships that we aren't quite, aware of yet. But the way that Osha talks to Sol is quite different than the way that May talks to Sol. And so getting kind of a peek behind the curtain through Amandla's performance, I think is really impressive. Lee Jung-jae also really impressed me for like multiple reasons. Like, for one, he's not fluent in English, that he kind of had to learn his lines and learn English at the same time. And I thought even with that kind of like language barrier hump that he had to overcome to make this character come to life, I don't think that you would ever really tell. He's fantastic. I thought that he really commanded this like steadfastness, this confidence, but also wisdom and also warmth and kindness, which I think sounds like a Jedi to me. It's like those are all qualities that I think like he's almost like a Qui-Gon kind of Jedi, of like being the poster boy of what a good Jedi should be. And I thought Lee Jung-jae was able to capture the multitude of this character really well. Of he can be the threatening, not necessarily menacing character, but that scene where he's fighting, May, he's not the one to be messed with, but he also is a character of compassion. And I thought Lee Jung-jae portrayed that really well.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot to say about these 2 that you just mentioned, because I feel like they're obviously the central 2, where May and Osha are going to play this role as far as being the push and pull of the season, and Osha playing a lot of the heart in the show. And obviously maybe we're going to see a little bit more heart from May as well. And then the idea of soul, like you said, I think everyone, like, it wasn't just me. I was like, it's just me. Everyone has been saying Qui-Gon. Like, it's ridiculous how many Qui-Gon.
Yeah.
This is the most name drops he's gotten since Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
Because you could see the Qui-Gon in him quite a bit, especially when it comes to a character like Yord, even Ventress, talking about the way to do certain things and the way to follow the Jedi rules and all that stuff, and the way he's able to not push past it, but the way he's able to see that maybe that's not the best course of action every time. So I feel like Soul is definitely going to be a major role, a major character inside this show that a lot of people are going to connect to. What did you think of, let's see what other characters we have. Kamir, Jecki, and Yord. Let's start with Kamir.
Kamir, I've got my eye on him, man. As much as I love Manny Jacinto and I'm a fan of The Good Place, like him reciting a portion of the Sith Code, I was like, keep my eye on this guy. I think that he has already been, demonstrated to be a very duplicitous character, where he's like, oh, I didn't know what she was going to do with the poison. It's like, all right, come on, man. So I think that there is definitely more lingering under the surface, as well as he's a pretty kick-ass fighter. Like, he's able to subdue May pretty quickly, like in the alleyway. And so I am definitely keeping my eye on Kamir, but I don't necessarily have the evidence yet, but it is building. It's building. I thought that Yord was a really fascinating character. Charlie Burnett is also in Russian Doll, also created by Leslie Headland. So I was really excited to see his character in this. And again, just a straight-laced Boy Scout. Like, he's such a rule follower. He literally says, like, that goes against 17 ordinances or whatever. Like, he's such a dork. And I think that he is right now kind of a dork in sort of an adorable way, but I think that pretty soon he is going to be shown to be kind of a cop, man. Like, he's drawn out his lightsaber at the first instance of seeing Osha. Like, to me, I think that his steadfastness and his determination to follow the rules of the Jedi Code, I think, is going to be his downfall, to where he is going to be unable to kind of waver from his own myopic point of view of what is right, what is wrong, and not be able to deviate from that, not be able to listen to the Force, listen to instincts, all of those things that we hear the Jedi say over and over again, something that Soul would probably encourage him to do. But throughout this entire season premiere, he is saying what they should do, which is the exact opposite of what they end up doing, or what ends up being helpful. Like, every step along the way, he's like, we should be doing this. And they're like, actually, we should do this other plan. Guess what? They were right and he was wrong. So I'm really fascinated to see kind of how he begins to represent, maybe what are some of the downfalls of the Jedi in this era.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to not ignore everything you said, especially the latter half. I know a lot of people are already loving him for being kind of the nerdy guy, but I do feel like the first time you meet this guy, he literally runs into an Nemodian, asks him a question, and the Modian's like, well, actually, and he just puts his hand up like, you want these hands? And I was like, damn, bro.
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? Like, you just got here. Like, you're on his ship. Like, he feels like very much that kind of character who's going to go too far. And this isn't me knowing anything. Who's going to go too far with his rule following and his by the bookness, where he really is just missing the point. And the point is just kind of flying over his head every time. And the fact that he wants to use intimidation as literally the first 10 seconds he's on screen makes me nervous about this guy.
Yeah. And I thought it was really fascinating that in that opening sequence with May and Dara, where she says, Jedi only pull out their lightsabers when they're ready to kill. That Indara does it kind of at the tail end of the fight, to where she feels like it's truly necessary to pull out her weapon at that time. What do we see with Yord? Dude's whipping that shit out immediately. Like, he has got his hand on his gun even when, he meets Osha in the first place. And so I think that, again, he is going to kind of fall into that. Dude's a cop. Like, I just really think that I don't trust him. I think that, again, his strictness to the rules is going to completely blind him to being able to commune in an organic way with the Force, and is going to represent kind of the downfall of the Jedi in this era, which is their dogma and their unwillingness to change or to grow.
Yeah, absolutely. Last thing I want to get to is, what are your predictions as far as where this show's going to go? What can happen next? And I know we only seen 2 episodes, but
yeah, it's tough to say because the way that the show has ended is obviously leaving so many threads kind of dangling. Again, I'm very interested to see the why of what's happening rather than who's Darth Teeth. I'm more interested in what happened on their homeworld. Why are the Jedi trying to run away from this, refusing to even acknowledge what they did? As we said, Torben kills himself rather than admitting what he did was wrong. I'm fascinated to see that point of view, as well as just really looking forward to getting some more action, because this show has already delivered so much cool hand-to-hand fighting, very Matrix, Crouching Tiger kind of inspired stuff. But as far as theories, I'm not really one to theorize a ton. Kamir, I got my eye on you, buddy. You're suspect numero uno at the moment, just because that Sith code, man, that's awful sus. So yeah, him and Yord, I've got kind of a raised eyebrow for, but yeah, no big theories, and it's kind of hard to have one, which is so liberating, isn't it? Is that you can't be like, is that Barriss Offee? You could, like, all these people are new, so I'm just excited to, all except for Vernestra, but I'm excited to kind of continue to know and learn, who these characters truly are.
Yeah, I think the only thing you can try and theorize on is what happened to May and Osha. Like, did the Jedi separate them? Did Osha really I'm not Osha. Did May really cause the fire? Was it the Jedi? That's all you can try and speculate on, is like, maybe these Jedi did something pretty bad.
Yeah, could be like. What. And their recruitment of one of or both of them, trying to take them away from this, because we see that she has that like white tattoo on her forehead, and we've seen in the marketing, Joni Turner Smith's character is kind of this mother of this witch clan. Is that their actual mother, or kind of this like clan mother, so to speak? I guess that remains to be seen. I think right now, if I was a betting man, I would say that she is like their biological mother, and maybe in them trying to do the Jedi recruitment stuff like they used to do, and still did into the Clone Wars, going out in the galaxy and trying to find these young Force sensitives. Maybe they encounter this tribe who uses the Force a little bit differently, and then people like Yord, maybe not Yord specifically, are kind of trying to gatekeep the Force, which I think could be really fascinating.
Sure. All right, guys, let's move on to Force Flashback for today. Very quickly, I want to get your thoughts as far as what is your favorite ensemble Star Wars cast. Obviously, this show, one of the major selling points of the show is the ensemble cast. So Garrett, what is your all-time favorite ensemble cast from a movie or show?
My favorite ensemble cast is also my favorite Star Wars show, which is Star Wars Rebels. I love the Ghost Crew. Phoenix Squadron are my babies. Every time I see them, my heart just flutters. I love all of them so much, and how well we get to know them throughout the course of those excellent 4 seasons. Each character is super rich with their own struggles, their own past, their own heritage, as well as having to make really difficult decisions. And every voice actor who portrays them does so perfectly. Like, everyone is so well cast, to the degree that when people like Hera are brought into live action, it's so difficult, and Sabine as well, it's so difficult to separate these Tia Sakar or any other Vanessa Marshall, any of these other great voice actors who have portrayed them. So not only in regards to the performers, but the characters, it's got to be Star Wars Rebels.
It's a great one. Obviously, Rebels, I echo everything you said about it. It's my favorite Star Wars show as well.
The best.
So I'm with you on that. If I would pick one, I'd probably go Phantom Menace. There's something about the Phantom Menace with Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon, Yoda, Mace Windu, and obviously the cast itself with Liam Neeson, Samuel Jackson. It really is an amazing cast. Natalie Portman as Padme, obviously. So there's something special about the Phantom Menace, and I know obviously a lot of the cast repeats in Attack of the Clones and stuff, but there's specifically the Phantom Menace was really special to me. All right, guys, let's move on to Squad. Oh, go ahead, RB3.
I was just gonna say I really like the sequel trilogy cast.
Me too.
Fantastic.
Yeah. All right, guys, let's move on to Squad Up with Squad Leader Ace. This is a game that we play where we pick any Star Wars character to fit this specific mission. I wanted to do a Jedi only in honor of the Acolyte. So Jedi only in this mission. And in this mission, you are a Jedi going on a mission to investigate the murder of one of your fellow Jedi. In this mission, you may encounter resistance from enemy bounty hunters, so you need a strong team to be ready for anything. You need these 5 Jedi. A Master Jedi who is the lead on the mission, a leader, someone who keeps everything in line and locked in on the mission. Number 2, an investigator, an intelligent Jedi that you trust to uncover the truth of what happened. Number 3, a scout, a Jedi that is good at covering tracks and making sure you guys aren't being followed or targeted. A head of security, a Jedi that will be the muscle of this mission, the first one to jump into battle in case anything happens. And finally, a liaison to the planet, a Jedi that will talk to the people and assure them that they're in safe hands, someone who will keep the peace among the people. Garrett, let's start with your leader Jedi on this mission. Who are you picking as your lead Jedi?
You know, I was trying to be cute with it. I was trying to pick like a deep cut to show all the Star Wars fans that I'm a nerd. I know stuff, but at the end of the day, I just had to go with my gut, and it's Obi-Wan Kenobi, man. The dude's a general for starters, which is a pretty good place to start, as well as being another one of those characters who is, in a lot of ways, kind of the poster boy for what a good ideal Jedi should be. Certainly he has his flaws, as does everyone, but his ability to own and acknowledge those flaws as he continues to grow and his relationship with the light side of the Force continues to grow. So not only has he proven time and time again to be able to complete the mission, but also he's able to collaborate and really bring out the best, you know, with everyone that he is kind of serving over. So it's got to be Obi-Wan Kenobi.
It's a good one. I'm going with Qui-Gon. I feel like Qui-Gon as the lead, being the one to really make the big decisions and not just do one small portion of the mission, to me is something that would be probably a good combination, a good leader to have on the mission to make sure you're following what Qui-Gon says and not what someone else who's maybe a little bit more trigger happy has to say. So I'm going with Qui-Gon.
Qui-Gon gives a lot of good pep talks in Phantom Menace. He's got like multiple scenes where he's doing that kind of halftime locker room speech, and he's, you know, really tells these people what they need to know in that moment. So that's a good pick.
Who is going to be your investigator, Garrett?
All right. This one, I've got Cal Kestis from the Jedi series because thank you. But because throughout that entire game, he's investigating a mystery. Like, that's kind of the entire point of the Jedi series. Not only that, but he has the ability of psychometry, which allows him to pick up certain objects and see the past, see the memory or the people who, you know, wielded such items. And I think that he has proven to be really, really resourceful, even if he gets a little overzealous at times. You know, shout out to whatever the next Jedi Fallen whatever game will be. So we'll have to see exactly how dark side he goes. But I think that he has proven to really be an understander of the complexities of the galaxy, as well as being able to focus on, you know, what's important, which is his kind of duty to the light side of the Force, as well as just being, you know, one of the coolest guys in the galaxy. You know, that head of hair, can't beat it. You just can't.
Yeah, absolutely. Cal Kestis is a great pick. That that's out of nowhere. I was like not thinking about that at all. That's a really good one. My investigator is obviously the GOAT. The GOAT. He does what he does. The founder of Camino himself, the guy who found Camino, Obi-Wan Kenobi. He is able to do what no one else is able to do, and he really does have that kind of you know, Sherlock Holmes kind of vibes.
Yeah.
And this is what he would be best at, in my opinion, is making sure that he is the one who is trying to find out what happened. So that's my choice.
Yeah, I'd like to think that Obi-Wan's also got Dexter Jettster on speed dial, and he's been proven to be very resourceful as well. So you've got the informant, you know, Obi-Wan's on top of it.
Absolutely. Garrett, who is your scout?
My scout is someone who is a bit of a loose cannon, but their entire career in the Jedi Order is covering their tracks and kind of being this shadow in the galaxy, and that is Quinlan Vos. His kind of role in the Jedi Council was to often go like on undercover missions. That's something that we saw a lot in Dark Disciple, and even where we meet him in the Clone Wars. Not only is he able to help target a lot of the characters that we see there, but also be able to, you know, track them down. So yeah, Quinlan Vos, also great head of hair.
Yeah, great head of hair for sure. And you're right. I feel like there's a couple episodes in Clone Wars as well when he did that.
Yeah,
so that's a really good one.
Yeah.
My scout is someone I was thinking about the other day, and I was like, you know what? She's underrated and she's really good, and I'm gonna pick her. I'm going with Deepa Bilaba as my scout. I feel like she has the experience, the strength, the knowledge, but also just the awareness to know what's going on before it happens, and to be able to see what's going on in a variety of ways. So that's why I'm picking Deepa. So
yeah, a big fan of Deepa Bilaba, and I think it also makes you wonder of like Kanan had to survive for decades on his own, and I think a big reason that he was probably able to do that is because of the lessons that Deepa Bilaba was able to like impart on him. So I think that's a great pick.
Head of security, Garrett.
This one, because it says the first one to jump into battle in case anything arises. So it's not necessarily shit's going down and we need a wrecking ball. I think for me, Ahsoka is my pick, has proven time and time again to not only be able to get the job done, but also be able to discern, is a Jedi needed in this moment? Are my lightsabers needed in this moment? Again, like we were talking about in our discussion of the show, I think Ahsoka is, you know, kind of the lesson is taught to her so many times throughout that show of the weight of loss and the role and the responsibility of being a leader. So if I have a head of security, I don't want somebody who's trigger happy. You know, I don't want somebody who's going to just at the immediate first sign of trouble, they're diving in there. I think Ahsoka is not only going to be able to easily take care of whatever the issue is, but is also going to be able to have the wherewithal to determine, you know, what her role in this is.
Absolutely. That's a great one. And obviously she's super powerful too. I mean, if there was
for sure
like 20 bounty hunters, I'm pretty sure she could take out all 20.
Yeah, gave Vader the smoke, all the Inquisitors, not a problem.
Yeah, she's extremely powerful. So I like that choice quite a bit. Speaking of powerful, mine, I was just like, I'm just picking Godzilla.
Yeah.
The Godzilla of the Jedi, Mace Windu.
I mean, how could you not, man?
Our armies can't stand against him. He could take down entire droid battalions by himself. Yeah. Mace Windu is my head of security, just because, I mean, if there's a Star Destroyer or something, he'd probably take it down. That's what he does. So that's
reminds me of that great scene in season 7 of the Clone Wars where he's like talking to all the droids and he's like, I've killed so many of you.
My name is Mace Windu. Mace Windu.
Exactly.
Have you heard of me?
Yeah.
Please put your guns down.
Yeah. It's hilarious.
That's my pick. So finally, a liaison to the planet, who is going to be talking to the people, Garrett.
I had a character in mind, but I know that you're also a big fan of this character, so I'm curious if you would pick them, because I sacrificed this pick. I'm like, I feel like Andreas will pick this one. So instead, I picked Ezra Bridger from Star Wars Rebels, who, as well as Ahsoka. And something that we know about Ezra is he is very easily able to establish a connection with not just people, but also animals too. That he is like a very emotionally vulnerable Jedi, that when we see him in Ahsoka, he's been kicking it with like the little turtle nomadic people for, decades at this point. So he's obviously a people person. And I think that Ezra just has a really firm understanding, because he lived on the streets for so long, kind of the will of the people, having a connection with the people, as opposed to some Jedi who were taken as babies and mostly just spent their adolescence on Coruscant. He kind of had to take care of himself. And really, I think that allows him to have a deeper connection with the people in the galaxy.
I feel like that's just like the best one. I didn't even think of Ezra. Oh my God. I was thinking of, I don't think I'm going to pick the one that you thought I was going to pick, I guess. I'm thinking of Ezra's master, Kanan Jarrus. Nice. Kanan is the one I'm picking for this one, because I feel like he's also a guy who, again, is so used to being among the people, being among normal, people living on planets, trying to survive, that I feel like Kanan would be a good choice to be someone who talks to them, lets them know what's going on, and lets them know that he has their back in every situation. Even though he is a little bit more of an introverted, quiet guy, I still feel like he has a really good connection to people. He has that Latino in him. He's going to reach out no matter what.
See,
Latino
I thought you were
Jedi.
going
He's
to
the
pick
only Latino Jedi.
I thought you were going to pick Rey, because I know you're a big Rey guy, and I love that in Rise of Skywalker we get to see her with like the Aki people, and she's like hanging out with the kids and all that kind of stuff. But Kanan is one of my all-time favorite Star Wars characters. So yeah, all great picks around.
I just feel like Kanan is like, Rey is cool because she can connect with pretty much every, but Kanan, like, he'll hang out with gangsters, like he'll hang out with like dogs, gangsters, like people on the outskirts of society, and he'll find a way to be like, yo, bro, you like that too? I love that stuff, bro. You like Kendrick? Like, he is that kind of dude to really just connect to you in that. And obviously Ezra too. I feel like Ezra is one of the biggest guys who does
now. I'm just imagining like him meditating with AirPods in, listening to Kendrick's diss before he goes into battle.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like that's what he does. Let's run it back. Who is your team? Starting with your lead on the mission, Garrett.
All right, I've got Obi-Wan Kenobi as the leader in the investigative spot. I've got Cal Kestis as the scout. I've got Quinlan Vos as the muscle. I've got Ahsoka, and as the liaison, I've got Ezra Bridger.
For me, I got Qui-Gon as my leader. I have Obi-Wan as my investigator. I have Deepa Billaba as my scout. My head of security is Mace Windu, and my liaison is Kanan Jarrus. Garrett McDowell, such a pleasure having you on the show, man. Where can everyone find you?
You guys can follow me over on Twitter and Letterboxd at Garrett McDowell. I also have two I've also got two other podcasts, a Star Wars podcast as well as a horror movie podcast. The Star Wars podcast is called Scum and Villainy, and the horror movie podcast is called Spectre Cinema Club. But yeah, thanks for having me on, man. This was a blast.
Appreciate having you on, man. And obviously you killed it. You can follow me at Squad Leader Ace. You can follow us at First Cut TMO and subscribe to First Cut if you haven't done so already. RB3.
You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Director RB3, and like you said, subscribe. Oh, there were some comments in the live chat. I don't know if y'all caught them. But shout out Travis Mitchell.
Travis Mitchell.
Yeah.
Shout out Travis Mitchell.
I mean, if you want, I don't know what he's talking about, but
let's hear it. What did Travis have to say?
Bad Batch is his favorite ensemble. That's a great one.
Great pick. Love Bad Batch.
Yeah, appreciate you, Travis. Make sure you guys tune in every Wednesday is what we're trying to do with Sabacc. After the Acolyte, come join us on Sabacc the Block. So make sure you guys do that. Either way, guys, for the First Cut crew, for Sabacc the Block, we're going to be peacing out. So peace, deuces.
So this is Sabacc.
Sabacc.